Do you ever have those days where you say to yourself, what have I even done today? I have these goals, I have these things that I'm working towards, but I got distracted, something distracted me, and I didn't work exactly towards what I'm working towards. I've been self-employed since 2013 as a photographer, and about 3 years ago, I started kind of looking into and beginning a kind of productivity system for myself, because there were so many days where that's how I felt. I was just kind of running from one fire to another fire, from one urgent thing to another urgent thing. And it's not like I wasn't getting anything done. I was getting a lot of things done, but I always felt like I was behind. I never felt like I was the one planning my days or my weeks out. I was just like running around. And after a few years of working on that system, I finally kind of got to something that I was really excited about and that has worked really well for me. And so today I'm gonna walk you through a little bit about how you can do that for yourself. And so here are the 7 steps. Number 1 is plan to be productive. So over 2 months ago, we welcomed our first baby into the world, a little girl, and I thought about productivity a lot. Like in my business, when I sat down, I was so grateful that I had already done the work to create a productivity system for myself. I created a plan ahead of time. You know, I work at home, and not only do I work at home, like Ali and I work on the business together. We share life responsibilities. We share baby responsibilities. And so my days look all over the place. And so because of that crazy schedule, I need to be prepared whenever I have time to work to be able to just like turn it on and just like go for it. And I don't think that's necessarily just when you have a baby. I think any time of our life, there's all of these kind of pulling things, especially if you work at home, especially if you work for yourself. Like, I don't know, your friends can be like, hey, are you free at lunchtime to go here? Or, oh, you want to go at this time? Oh, maybe I should do laundry right now. There's all these pulling forces that can kind of change your day. Before you desperately need this plan, you should set aside 2 hours to figure this out. The first hour, I call it kind of like contemplation hour. And the second hour is implementation. This is when you actually create the plan. Number 2, your plan is probably going to suck, and that's okay. Don't try to make a perfect plan. So I told you this has taken me, I don't know, a few years before I felt comfortable enough to like make a YouTube video about it. And so things changed, and my first plan wasn't very good, or it wasn't very accurate, or I wasn't very self-aware enough. And so it's okay if it's not perfect. I know I'm very much a perfectionist. I kind of feel like I either want the most perfect plan ever, or who cares? I don't want any plan at all. If you can just put together anything at all, that is the perfect place to start. A movie that I watched somewhat recently, but I really loved it, was King Richard. It's the movie about the Williams sisters, the tennis stars. And there's this point where their dad comes into their bedroom and is like, you know, girls, have you planned in your notebooks? And they all kind of join him. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. He didn't go in there and say like, did you have the perfect plan ever? No, he just asked if they have a plan. I have 2 key pieces of paper, plans, on my desk every single day. One, I call it my treasure map. And the second one is my daily planner. And don't get me wrong, I love digital things. My whole calendar is on Google Calendar. Like, I love digital reminders, all of those things. But there is something particularly special about writing down your goals and writing down your plan every single day. Number 4 is decide on where you're going. Recently, I took a long road trip to see some family in South Carolina, and I was on the road trip. I was listening to a great podcast, and I was going down the road, and my GPS kept saying like, continue straight, or like, continue on I-85, like whatever. And it kept going like that. And it was interrupting my wonderful listening session of whatever I was listening to. And so I decided, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to turn this GPS off for a second because it keeps interrupting me, and I'm going to turn it back on in like, 20 minutes. I'm on this road for a while, so I'm fine. So there I am, just driving down the road, and then I realized I was like, oh, actually, I've been kind of listening for a while. I haven't put my GPS back on. So I turned my GPS back on, and then I looked at the estimated time and I was like, what? I've like lost like 30 minutes or like, what is going on? I had somehow gotten on to the wrong road. Like I've done this trip so many times. Like I kind of feel like I could do it on autopilot, but I somehow went in the wrong direction and I didn't even see any turns. Like there were no turns. I like somehow magically got on the wrong road and I had no idea how that happened. So I had to keep driving, find the next exit, get off the exit, turn around, come back on, and then get back onto the right highway. And I was so mad because I unnecessarily missed my exit. I unnecessarily went the wrong direction without thinking because I wasn't constantly being reminded of what direction I was going. And even worse than that is imagine I didn't even have a GPS at all. Imagine I didn't even know which way I was going. It would be bad. It would be very bad. So before you even think about productivity, you have to think and you have to know exactly where you're going. And even if it's not all clear to you, you at least just need to like pick one point and be like, okay, I don't know exactly how this is all going to look, but I'm going to choose to just go in one direction. And that is one of those pieces of paper that sit on my desk. I call it my treasure map. It is where X marks the spot. It is what path am I taking to get where I want to go. And your treasure map should be 3 sentences. It should be stuck somewhere where you see it every single day. I have it stuck to my iMac right here, and I'm looking at it right now. I see it every single day, and it's these 3 questions. Number 1, what is my vision? How am I going to achieve that vision? And today, like, what am I doing today? What am I doing this week in order to get there? But before you stop and like start writing these questions down, you actually don't answer them directly in my exercise. You answer them indirectly by answering 3 different questions, which we're going to get to. So remember, earlier I was saying set aside 2 hours. So this is the first hour of those 2 hours. And this is where you answer these 3 questions in order to answer those 3 treasure map questions. The first question is, what will I be glad that I did when I am blank amount of years old? What you do is you take your age and you add 10 years to it. I put it in one of my notebooks like this so I can keep it and keep looking back at it. And it's really important to include personal things because, for example, one of my personal things that I wrote down was like I want to be a good husband. Like I want to be a good dad. That means that I can't work 17 hours a day. I just, in my version of what it means to be a good husband and a good dad, like it means to be present with my family. And so I can't work super long hours. Like you might not have a family, but maybe you want to date someone. Maybe you want to have some friends. It probably means that you need to have an end time to your workday so you can have a life afterwards. So all of those things, you're creating some like boundaries and some ideas and some things some values that are important to you. So you can start structuring what it looks like and how it looks like for you to be best productive for the person you want to be in 10 years. So you have written that whole list of things. There's a whole bunch of things. You keep writing until you can't think of any more things. Go through and highlight and circle some things that, now that you've finished the list, like what are the really, like these top 5 things are like non-negotiables. The second question, it's 6 months from the day that you wrote this list. Why did you fail? Why did you fail at moving towards this list? So these are kind of all your faults. These are all the things that you struggle with right now in productivity. I'm too lazy. I don't get up early enough, or these are all your weaknesses that you're going to factor in to your kind of productivity system a little bit later on. So again, this needs to be on paper. You need to have it in front of you to see it. It's going to be a little painful, and that's okay. So for me on my list, I got distracted. In 6 months, I got distracted. I didn't prioritize things. And so I went down these rabbit holes that I didn't need to, and I didn't do the thing that I wanted to do. So from that, I learned, okay, you know what? I need to prioritize. It's really hard for me to do this, but I need to prioritize, put numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 in the order of things that I want to do. And then I just do one because I can get so distracted so easily that if I don't prioritize, I will do number 7 on the list first. And then the last question you're going to ask to put together this treasure map is, in 6 months, this is why I succeeded. These are all your strengths. This is all the ways that you know that you can get things done. So for me, I wrote down like, working before lunch is my like I'm amazing at getting work done first thing in the morning. And so what I realized from that is, wow, I need to prioritize. Number one, if I want to get something done, I should schedule it for the morning. And I need to protect that morning time for me. And so after you've sat down and you've written those 2 lists, why I failed in 6 months, why I succeeded in 6 months, then I want you to sit down and just like look at them. And patterns are going to possibly start to emerge. You're going to start seeing like, oh, maybe I don't work enough every day. Maybe I need to include like mandatory, like I'm going to, work 6 trackable hours per day. Or I'm, oh, I failed because I work too late in the evening and then I can't get up in the next morning and I have issues with this. And this is going to start to inform you in how to put together a system that is actually going to get you to achieve your goals in 10 years. Number 5 is, now it's time to write your treasure map. And it's these 3 questions, right? So it is, what is your vision? How am I going to achieve that vision? And today, like, what am I going to do today? Nitty gritty, like, what are the actual things I'm going to do this week in order to achieve that goal? So an example of this is, let's say your vision is that I want to be the best wedding photographer in the world in 10 years. And so, okay, that's your vision. So the second one is how. And this is just like, make your best guesses at how to do that. Okay, well, maybe I need to take photos. So I'm going to plan, I don't know, 1 shoot every single week. Another thing is, maybe I need to get some really good reviews from clients or people that worked with me. Maybe you need to get to know some top people in the industry. So this is my best guess of how to do my big vision, which is how to become the best photographer in the world. And then today, that would look like, okay, so I need to do a bunch of shoots. So today I'm going to do 1 shoot every single week. And that is going to be on my priority list. Every month, I'm going to get 1 review from someone that I've worked with, someone that I've taken photos of, to say like, Luke, he's the best photographer in the world. For, the networking thing, okay, maybe once every 3 months, I'm going to connect with someone in the industry. So that's what a treasure map would look like. It's your big vision. It's your rough idea of how I'm going to get there. And then you put specifics in your day to day, like, what am I going to do this week? What am I going to do every Monday? And you can put that right in that treasure map to look at every day. And like I said at the beginning, things are going to change. Maybe you're going to try to do some of these things and then realize like, oh, this is actually not the best how. I have to update my treasure map. And for me, I've put like treasure map 1.2. And then when I do a new one, I do treasure map 1.3. And it's just kind of a fun way for me to see how many times I've actually updated this thing based on me trying it. I try it for a few weeks, a couple of months, and then realize, okay, I need to update this a little bit. But the important thing is that I'm going in a direction. So you can make treasure maps for a whole bunch of different things. Say you want to get in shape. Your treasure map could be like, vision, I want to be huge and buff. Like, second, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat well. I'm going to run every other day. And then today, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to run today at 6 p.m. And on Tuesdays, I'm going to work out at 8 a.m. Like, listing down specifics of what you're going to do daily, like the tactical, like you have to be specific in that day-to-day section. So if you just do this process and you put it away in your notebook and you file your notebook, or you take the paper, you throw it out by accident, it's going to be zero help to you. The only way that this helps, the only way that this makes a difference in your productivity and where you're going is if you see it all the time and you verbally say it. You can say it out loud to yourself. Ideally, say it to another human out loud. When you first do this list, this is where it gets kind of scary and a little uncomfortable, is when you've done that big list of like my vision for the next 10 years, why I failed, why I succeeded. you should say that whole list to someone or yourself out loud every day for 2 weeks. And the reason you do that is that it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget the reasons why you keep doing the same thing over and over again that puts you in a bad position. The next thing is to say your treasure map every single week. And that's what I do. The first work day of my week, every week, I pull my little treasure map and I say it to Allie, and Allie says hers to me. Doing this regularly can feel a little silly. It can be scary because you're saying this kind of vision that you have, for 10 years down the line. Depending on your personality, you could feel a bit embarrassed about this. But even if you don't feel it, say it confidently and say it in a way like this is actually happening. And number 7 is focus on your process and forget about the big goal and the big vision. So the reason that I chose 10 years from now is that it's far enough away to where you feel like I should be able to accomplish, big things in 10 years. But it's also far enough away to where the reality is the goal and the vision that you have is probably going to look different, because 10 years is a long time. So things are going to change. Maybe they're going to get better. Maybe they're going to be different. Maybe you're going to have new priorities and different priorities. And that's okay. But the point is that's just like a starting point to get you going in a direction. The whole purpose of this kind of structure that I'm giving to you and that I developed for myself is to be better at the process of productivity, not being obsessed with the goal or obsessed with where I want to go, but to get really good and to enjoy the process of being productive. Because I found I'm very much a dreamer. I'm very much someone who loves like creating ideas and having things that I want to work towards. But I often have problems. I have problems getting to that goal. And sometimes when I get to the goal, it's kind of like anticlimactic. I'm like, oh, I'm here. Okay, now what do I do? But instead, if I focus on the process of getting to those goals and I enjoy that process of getting to them, of getting things done, of figuring out, how to go from a vision to like how to do something today to work towards that vision, that's where I can, be really good at productivity. That's where I can get a lot of things done. After doing those 3 things and you have some big insights, I'd love to like hear in the comments, like what are some things that you learned after doing that process? I'd love to hear from you. So I think that's enough for this video. But the next time I do a productivity video is going to be about my daily planner that I use. And that is the manifestation of this whole thing, right? I take all of this and then I put that onto one sheet that I look at every day, and it's for a week at a time. And that's how I kind of divvy up all my daily hows and my weekly hows, how this really helps me to stay on track and to stay on path towards my larger vision. When I have that video up, I will post a link to it here. And lastly, if you haven't subscribed already, now would be a great time to hit subscribe, and I will see you at the next video.